Hello YouTube, welcome to Boomer Mafia. In this video I'm going to describe my experience with Autotrader.com and their private seller exchange program that I used to purchase my 2014 Toyota Tacoma. I want to make sure that everybody understands that Autotrader.com is not sponsoring this video. I'm doing this to share the knowledge about my experience for people that may be considering using the service to either buy or sell a vehicle. Like all cars, you're just going to start your search by specifying the make and the model. The only thing that you're going to do differently here is specify that you're interested on private sellers only, right? That's going to filter the result set to only private cars. The service offers auto checks by Experian on the vehicles that are made available for sale by private individuals. I think it's a valuable service from the point of view that allows you to see how many owners the car had and whether it has a history of accidents or any other negative things that may impact the value of the car, right? I myself prefer no accident or minor accident, single owner, and low mileage vehicles, right? So you do your research and all that stuff that you need to do to figure out if this is a vehicle you want. What the service does for you, it allows you to interact online to try to conduct a transaction, right? In this case, myself, after I conducted all my research, I decided to go ahead and schedule a test drive directly. And clicking on that option immediately tells you or gives you a meeting point where you can meet with the seller and you can supply the times where you would like to conduct the test drive, right? So once you click continue, that information goes to the seller, and the seller is going to accept one of those meeting times, and you're obviously going to go to the meeting point and conduct the test drive as you would like to do that, right? Now, in my case, my research included printing a window sticker using the monronilabels.com website. I just want to make sure that the car had the equipment that I wanted, right? And also get an idea of what the original value of that vehicle was at the time, right? So about 34 grand or something like that. I mean, that was pretty good, so I was quite happy with that. Um, the other thing that you want to do, obviously, is check the auto check. I didn't do Carfax because this auto check came with a lot of the information that I needed. Obviously, it's a single owner. The concern was that it did have some damage, but it did show that the damage was limited to the rear left quarter panel, and the listing had a photograph of the damage from that accident. So the owner took good care of documenting the accident, I guess, for a future sale of some sort, right? So that was pretty good. The history was also very good. Obviously, you're looking for records that describe a history of service, and obviously you want that service to be just regular maintenance, not calls to fix mechanical or electrical problems that the car has, right? So in this case, this car had a pretty clean history of just regularly scheduled maintenance, not a big deal. And the accident was described in here. This is a screenshot of the chat panel in the website, right? So you're able to interact with the seller. Obviously, these communications are also available via the app, and I believe, you also get emails with this information too. So even if you're not available, you can still see some of that information. One of the nice things that the service has, and I think is great, is that the identity of both the buyer and the seller are verified. And what that means is that you have to supply personal information to AutoTrader to verify your identity. I did that by supplying a photograph of the front and back of my driver's license and a selfie. And that's what gave me that green check mark. Now, that's obviously not 100% foolproof guarantee that you're dealing with up and up individuals, but it is a step above what you would encounter with Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, right? For me, this was sufficient to make sure that that the seller was on the up and up, and that the vehicle had been verified, right? After I conducted the test drive, I was quite satisfied with the condition of the vehicle. I pretty much rated it a 9 out of 10. One thing to keep in mind buying a used pickup truck is you got to make sure that that the frame doesn't have a lot of rust in it, right? And so I had to crawl under and inspect the frame just to make sure that it didn't have any rust problems. Yeah, it has some surface corrosion, but that's not a big deal, right? You just want to make sure that it doesn't have this major rust problems, especially on the frame and the C channels of the frame, or if it's a box frame, well, that's a little bit harder to check, right? But one of the things that happened for me is that I actually did not end up making an offer. The seller himself made me an offer that by lowering the price. So all of a sudden, I got an email telling me, "Hey, Jose, you want to buy it for this amount of money for this lower price?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So the purchase actually happened by the seller offering a lower price and me just basically clicking the accept button. And that's how I ended up buying the vehicle, right? So once you finish the negotiating process, you're gonna end up paying for it online. So you don't hand any money to the seller. Everything goes through AutoTrader and an escrow account that they set up for the transaction. And then eventually you end up picking up the car, and then you're going to finish the work by picking up or finishing the title and the registration portion of the transaction, right? The website pretty much gives you a detailed set of instructions as to what to do, right? So obviously, after I made my payment, and they got the monies transferred from my account to the escrow account, you get an email where you can print a temporary permit. So this email is going to allow you to print this piece of paper, and you can cut it and put it in a license plate. You can also tape it to the rear window, etc. Okay, that's going to allow you to drive the vehicle away. It also tells you, that go ahead and set up a meeting to pick up the vehicle, and then eventually you're going to meet with the seller. And for that one, you need to have the phone application because you need to take a photograph of the odometer. And more importantly, once the owner gives you the keys and you have them in your possession, that's when in the application you push a button. And that button is going to basically say, hey, the transaction is complete. The person is driving away with the vehicle. So what happens next is that the seller has to mail the title to AutoTrader so that the escrow account can release the funds to the seller, right? So they're going to verify that all the paperwork is correct. If everything is good, then they will pay the seller, and then they're going to end up giving you the title so you can complete the work. And this is the email that I received notifying me that they received the title from the seller and that the paperwork was in progress. All of it pretty safe. I never felt like I was being scammed or anything. So that was all pretty well. So a few days later, once I'm picking up the car, um, I did get a USPS priority mail envelope with the title and the bill of sale, both with sign here stickers, so that was kind of nice. So you don't make mistakes. And once you sign those papers, I mean, you just go to the DMV or the tag office and complete the registration, so nothing very difficult about that, right? Now, in my experience, here's the summary of my experience with the service, right? So I'll say that I felt like that it provides a very safe environment for both sellers and buyers, right? The verified identities is certainly a step well above and beyond what you would do in normal social media type of seller exchanges, right? And also the vehicles are verified. Auto Trader is going to make sure that those cars are straight. They're not stolen. I mean, obviously there is no foolproof guarantee, but it's more guarantees that you would normally get on other types of um, seller exchanges, right? They do facilitate communication quite a bit, right? So you have the chat service. It makes it very easy to schedule a test drive, making offers in both ways. It's very easy to negotiate this platform. And for me, I didn't even have to negotiate. The seller sent me an offer that made it very difficult to say no, right? I mean, I've been looking for a Tacoma for about 8 months. What you find is a bunch of junk sometimes. And I was looking for that one owner, low mileage. That takes a while, right? And when the offer came over, everything checked, and I accepted it. So I didn't even counter. I felt that the price was fair, and I figured, yeah, let's just accept it, get it done and over with. And all of that with the phone app too. It's very very cool stuff. And finally, one of the great things about it is that it facilitates the purchase transaction, right? So I transfer the money through my bank account to an escrow account, right? So they will facilitate the handling of the money between the two parties. So I don't have to bring a check, and the seller doesn't have to take a check, right? Everything is handled through Autotrader using an escrow account, and that's obviously for the protection. I felt that the funds were handled in a very safe manner. I never felt like I was at risk of losing my money. I was simply putting my money into an escrow account. And once AutoTrader received the paperwork from the seller and verified that everything was good, they ended up sending me the paperwork so I can complete the application for registration and my new plate. So overall, my cost for utilizing the service was $200, and that included the escrow service, and that included the the use of their platform and being able to deal with sellers that are verified and cards that are verified, right? So for me, the $200 fee was good. Yeah, I would we would love not to have to pay anything, but for $200 fee and have this type of experience, I mean, it's hard to say no, right? So I felt pretty good about the $200 fee. And overall, I would give the service a 5-star rating, right? My experience as a buyer was phenomenal. I bought many cars through my lifetime. This was the easiest way for me to buy a car from a private individual, and a very safe way to handle a transaction that involves thousands of dollars, that you feel safe about and you're not being taken advantage of. Now, from the seller perspective, I did talk to him quite a bit because I wanted to learn about his experience as a seller. And what he told me was that he made the mistake of listing his phone number in the original ad, and he got bombarded by scammers, right? People making all kinds of crazy offers, and so once he corrected that and he began to deal with verified buyers, he said the experience was very nice. He doesn't felt he never felt like he was dealing with bad individuals, because he felt that the verified green check mark was gave him that peace of mind that he was dealing with people that AutoTrader vetted to be bona fide buyers for his vehicle. Of course, that's not a guarantee, but scammers, maybe they may not go through that whole vetting process, right, to be verified. So will I use the service in the future to buy a car? Yes. And would I use it to sell a car? Absolutely. I would definitely use the service well before I use any other service like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, right? It's the world is just a crazy place, and I think that this service puts a buffer between the crazies and myself, right? So I think for the seller, I think you have to pay like a $50 listing fee, and then I think you pay like a 1% commission on the sale. Don't quote me on that, but even at that, not a big deal, right? If this service helps me sell a vehicle and do it in a safe manner, at 1% of the transaction or even 2% of the transaction, it's not a big price to pay, right? I mean, to me, it's doing this, buying and selling cars in a safe and secure manner is a very important. And I have no issues with the $200 cost of my transaction. And I think the seller was quite happy also with the service that he got. So anyways, those are my impressions of the AutoTrader and the Private Seller Exchange. I highly recommend it. If you ever get a chance to use it, go ahead. Feel safe. You know, I had a pretty good experience. Until then, goodbye, adios, hasta luego.